Jon, to take your time out to do this interview. I don't know what you're all about, really. We got Jon Fitch here, 42 fights, 32 wins, 7 losses, only 5 stoppages. Phenomenal resume. Fought people along the lines of GSP, Rory McDonald's, Jake Shields, Damian Mayer, BJ Penn, Johnny Hendricks, all real top class quality opponents. So basically, I just want to see what makes you tick, what you're all about. Give people who may not know much about Jon Fitch a little bit of an insight into how you become who you are, really. So basically, question number 1, how did it all get started? Where did it all begin, so to speak?
Well, as far as the fight stuff, I started wrestling at 9. Wrestling was always my secondary sport. Football was my primary sport. I thought I was going to play college football and maybe pro football someday when I was growing up. But by my senior year in high school, I realized that I was just a little too small, a little too slow to actually play football. So I had a decision to make. Do I walk onto a football team and work hard and maybe play kickoff team my senior year, or do I walk onto the wrestling team and work hard enough and possibly win a national title? So I went for the wrestling aspect of it, and I struggled early a little bit to find my groove. Last couple of years, I started to get a lot better, and I kind of wasn't done competing towards the end of my wrestling career. So, I just started to get good. So I was like, I can't stop now. So I decided to either continue with wrestling and try to make a national team or something, or maybe start fighting. And then talking to different people I knew who were fighting and some people who were, pursuing that goal of a national team for wrestling, and comparing, their lives, I just realized that there was no money and the wrestling road was just not worth it. So I decided to try fighting, and I did a year at grad school where I was assistant coach at Purdue University, volunteer assistant. And during that year, I started fighting. And after that year, I kind of realized I needed to get where people knew more than me in fighting, and there was nothing in Indiana where I was at the time. So I had to move to California, out to AKA, and just kind of helped kind of create and build that gym and that team with everybody else who was there at the time. I actually have a book, Failing Upward Death by Ego, where I share a lot of my old journals from that time period. I have one book out. I'm working on some other ones, but I have like 17 years of journals that I'm going to go through and try to share the path and some of the stuff that was going on, because it was really the Wild West back then. I had maybe 14 to 16 fights where I didn't even sign a contract. We would just drive somewhere there was a fight supposed to be happening, and we'd get there, jump on a bathroom scale, and they'd say, "Yeah, I got somebody around your weight," and you'd fight. I fought in Minnesota one time for Brad Kohler. He's an ex-UFC fighter, and I fought a guy, beat him in the first round, and then before I got my gloves off in the back, and Brad Kohler was offering me another fight for $100. So ended up fighting 2 times in the same night. That type of stuff was just regular. It happened. So there's a lot of interesting things that happened back in the day. A lot of fights. I even had a fight where we didn't get paid. The promoter didn't have any money in escrow. He thought he was going to make all the money to pay the fighters with ticket sales, but nobody showed up, and he kind of disappeared.
I think you definitely made the right choice with the career anyway. Seemed to have worked out all right for you.
That's bad.
I was reading, correct me if I'm wrong, you have a black belt in Guerrilla jiu-jitsu.
Mm-hmm.
What is the differences between Guerrilla jiu-jitsu and the more recognized Brazilian jiu-jitsu that people may be more aware of?
It is Brazilian jiu-jitsu. It's Dave Camarillo got his black belt from Ralph Gracie. Dave has a black belt in judo also. So it's just Dave's style of BJJ. It's just more aggressive. He does a lot of flying attacks. So it's Guerrilla Jiu-Jitsu. It's the same as he's kind of rebranded to Camarillo Jiu-Jitsu, but it's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Right, yeah. Obviously, I've already listed off many of the top guys you fought. Who, in your mind, was the toughest opponent you've actually gone in there with?
Obviously, GSP.
Yeah.
I think he's probably pound for pound the best who's ever done it.
Great. Definitely got a little bit extra about him, really, isn't he? What do you attribute to still being able to go out there and compete at a really top level? Obviously, at the age of 41 now, there's not many guys able to pull it off really at the top level. Just wondering what it is that you put that down to, really.
Man, hard work. Really, just dedicating myself to it, doing the work, and being stubborn, just knowing what needs to be done to get to where you need to be. I go in there, fight hard. I'm trying to sprint for that full time period. I'm in there to do work. I use a lot of strategy. I think that helps a lot. I haven't taken a lot of damage compared to some of these other guys. But yeah, I think just work ethic is really what's put me in this position. It's not any natural abilities. It's nothing that's been handed to me or given to me in any way. And I think just being consistent with my workouts and being consistent with my health over the years has allowed me to continue to be in a position that I'm in right now.
Right, really good. Obviously you're still putting out there fighting the top guys at Bellator at the moment. Still at a really high level. Who's the next guy that Jon Fitch wants? What will it take to make it happen?
I'm waiting to hopefully hear word that I'll get a fight Lima. I think I'm the only guy that didn't lose in that tournament. I'm the top guy who hasn't lost in that tournament who's left. I don't see anybody else for them to match him up with, quite honestly, who's as good as a matchup as I am. It also builds some good storylines because, Rory wins another fight. I beat Lima. It sets up a rematch between me and Rory. If I lose to Lima, it sets up Rory and Lima's having a third fight. So there's good storylines there. But I mean, that's what it's going to take. I'm going to need a title shot because I've been doing it 17 years. My body's beat up. I got kids, bills to pay, and fighting non-title for the money that we're getting paid at this level, it's not worth it. I make 63 and 63. There's not much in sponsorships around anymore. It's not enough to feed a family, especially when you're fighting once a year. You got management and gym fees. It's going to come about 20% of your purse. You're going to have state income tax here or federal income tax is about 33%. So you're already talking about 53% of your purse gone immediately. And then I'm in California, so it's another 13% state income tax. So you're looking at 66% of your purse is gone the second you leave the cage. On top of that, you're going to put another 5,000 or 10,000 into your training camp. So I mean, 63 and 63, I win that fight. I'm walking with like 20 grand to live a year. It's just,
that's very basic for what you're doing.
And that's not even a knock on Bellator at all, because they're doing everything they can. Everybody else doing what they can. The UFC has a monopoly. They run the sport. It's not a sport. It's pro wrestling, 100% pro wrestling. The fights are not predetermined, but everything else is pro wrestling. The ranks are arbitrary. The titles are arbitrary. It's a television show. They're just putting on a production. It's not a sport. No other sport in the world has the promoter or the event organizer that holds control of the title and exclusive contracts. It's a conflict of interest. It's been outlawed in the U.S. for over 100 years, but for some reason the UFC is allowed to continue to do it. And the fighters are either stupid or they're pussies. and they refuse to stand up and fight for their actual place as independent contractors. They refuse to fight for their slice of the pie, and they'll instead fight each other and reverse bid to fight for less, while they get robbed, and it's very frustrating.
Yeah, I bet. It's pretty awesome, actually, because funny enough, that was going to be my final question. I recently seen a podcast where he was talking about UFC turning into pro wrestling, and I was just going to ask you to elaborate on it, which obviously you just led into. To add to that, when would you say that actually started to happen? What sort of period? Was there specific people that made it happen?
It was Zuffa's plan from the beginning when Zuffa bought. There's guys that Phil Brody was telling stories how Dana and the Fridas, they're sitting in an office together with the people from WWE, going over their business model, learning from them because they were trying to copy it. Their merchandising scheme, the sponsorships, the way they treat the athletes, it's all the same. Like they pulled a fast one on everybody, and the regulators trying to say that it's a sport. See, look, we have time limits, we have weight classes, we have all these things, but it was a scam. They're not a sport. They're pro wrestling. They call themselves a league, and that's the biggest wool over the eyes that they did. They successfully convinced everybody that the UFC is a league. It's not a league. In order to be a league, you have to have multiple owners, multiple teams. Like the NFL is a league because there's 32 teams in it. There's 32 owners of those teams. That makes it a league. The NFL is a sanctioning body. They control the title. That works. We have one single entity, the UFC or Bellator or whoever, and they have absolute control over who ascends the ranks and who fights for titles. It has nothing to do with merit. It has nothing to do with your ability. It has everything to do with the money they can make off of you. How much can they pimp you out for? It's exploitative. It's frustrating. And I miss the days when we had more competition between the promoters, where it was you could actually leave and go to another promotion, and they had reasonable amount of money. They were making the same type of money. UFC owns at least 90% of the world market in MMA with all the money they're making. Everybody else is fighting for scraps in the last 10%. And that's everybody. That's ONE FC, KSW, Bellator, all of them together combined are 10% or less than the global market of MMA.
Oh, that's absolutely mad, really. And when you think about it, the amount of fighters out there, and such a large amount to be owned by one company, really.
Well, and it's I mean, there's about 3,000 active professional fighters worldwide. But the UFC owns, I think, 90% of all the top 10 guys in each weight class. They control at least 90% of the money streams coming in from everywhere, and it's a little bit of a guess. I think we're under guessing how much money they're controlling. But yeah, they have an iron grip on everything with the new ESPN deal. They'll never have to deal with another Conor McGregor again. They'll never have to go and pull guys like Brock Lesnar from WWE, because their money is guaranteed now. They have guaranteed pay-per-view sales or whatever through ESPN deal that's better than they were doing like in 2009 or whatever. So like they don't even need the names anymore. They can print out just Big Macs, just put out doll whatever fights, non title contenders, whoever they just want to put in there as basically a TV show. They can just cast somebody, say he's good, and then set up fights that he could win.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I just really want to thank you for answering these questions, Jon. I really do appreciate it. Nice. I hope it's given people out there an insight into what you're all about and some of your thoughts. And I just want to wish you all the best with 2020 now, really. And hope you get a big fight with Lima. And
that'd be great.
I'm sure you've got a lot of fans that will be rooting for you on that one, mate.
Yeah, man. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, thank you very much. Cheers, John.
Thanks, man.